It is 4 p.m. We're bringing developing news.
And the stories behind the headlines. This is Storycon. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Ed Lingao. Some stories we're watching this Monday, March 3. Marso na.
Classes at several schools across Metro Manila were canceled today, suspended today due to the heat index reaching up to 46 degrees Celsius. These include schools in Manila, Malabon, Las Piñas, Parañaque, and Marikina. Pagasa says this heat index level could persist until tomorrow. Press Secretary Jay Ruiz is in the process of divesting his shares from a media company that secured 206 million pesos in PCSO contracts. That's according to Malacanang, who also doesn't see any conflict of interest in this case. Ruiz denied knowledge of the contract details, while the palace dismissed any wrongdoing since the deal was made before his appointment.
And Ukraine's European allies are rallying behind President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. That's after President Donald Trump removed him from the White House and accused him of not being ready for peace. European leaders, including Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, voiced support for Ukraine after this moment of blowout at the Oval Office earlier.
He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel.
Now, over in Rome, Filipinos gathered in prayer as Pope Francis continued his 2-week battle with bronchitis and double pneumonia. Morning Matters host Gretchen Ho is currently in Rome and she filed this report for us.
Pag-asa natin sa Diyos na siyang humihilom, ang Diyos na nagtagumpay laban sa karamdaman, sa kasalanan at sa kamatayan ay lumapit at humibo at magpagaling kay Pope Francis.
Filipinos in Rome stormed the heavens with prayers as Pope Francis got off on a rocky weekend. Several Pinoy priests and laymen came together Sunday afternoon to offer a special mass and a holy hour of prayer for the ailing 88-year-old pontiff who had a sudden worsening of his respiratory condition over the weekend. On his 14th day at the Gemelli Hospital, Pope Francis experienced a setback in his recovery with an isolated episode of bronchospasm that led to a coughing fit and the Pope inhaling vomit. He was immediately subjected to aspiration to clear his airways and was put on a non-invasive mechanical ventilator to help him breathe. The Pope's condition has since been stable, with the past 3 nights having been peaceful and no new respiratory attacks occurring. In his latest Angelus address published by the Holy See Press Office, Pope Francis thanked the faithful for their closeness in his moment of frailty and expressed gratitude for his doctors. Even in his moment of personal suffering, Pope Francis took time to remind everyone to continue praying for peace and remember those tormented in Ukraine and other troubled spots around the world. The tightly knit Filipino community got together yesterday at the Basilica del Sacre Cuore to offer a mass and prayers for the pontiff's continuing recovery.
Ang Basilica del Sacro Cuore ang tahanan ng oldest community ng mga Pilipino dito sa Roma. At dito rin sa simbahan kung saan huling nagmisa si Don Bosco, buhay na buhay ang boses, diwa at dasal ng mga Pilipino para sa Santo Papa.
Leading the celebration for the Filipino community was none other than Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, said to be one of Pope Francis's favorite cardinals.
Kumapit sa kanya para matigil ang korupsyon. Pagkapit tayo sa ibang puno, makukorrupt pa yan. Para kay Jesus, incorruptibility.
And speaking of favorite, it is no secret that Pope Francis is close to the hearts of Filipinos as well.
He do lots of things. He reached to everyone. Nung like here also, he touched my hand. Tayo yung sa lahat ng migrants sa buong mundo, tayo ang mahal na mahal ni Pope Francis. Hindi niya nakakalimutan na batiin ang mga Pilipino. Mahal ka namin, Lolo Kiko.
Mga Pinoy, since very close si Pope Francis sa atin, malungkot, and at the same time hopeful na gumaling siya. No? And every day there's that rosary at the Vatican, and many of our Filipino kababayans are participating in that prayer for him.
Well, it seems some prayers have been granted. Just this morning, doctors say that they have discontinued mechanical ventilation, but they continue to monitor the complex situation with the prognosis still remaining guarded. Complicating the recovery, of course, is the long history Pope Francis has had with lung issues, with a part of his lung being removed when he was 21. In the meantime, Catholics, especially Filipinos here in Rome, continue to say the rosary for the Pope every night right here from the Vatican.
And before anything else, let's welcome to the Storycon family. Hindi ikaw. Hindi nga ikaw eh.
But he's a guest star.
Pinagdadasal ko nga yung bago.
Oo.
Si Regina Lay, our business editor, joins us in Storycon.
Sabi, good boy tayo ngayon.
Kasi nagpa-pray ka for Pope Francis' health.
Nagpa-pray ako para sa aming sarili, sa amin ni Ed, baka mapagalitan kami.
Dinamay mo.
Kaya nga nilagay dito eh.
Kanina lang, napagalitan na ako.
Si Ate Reg.
Ate Reg.
Ate Reg.
Uy, you have to introduce
Tita
ano, Miss Amy.
Si Ate Reg, ang ating bawang kapatid dito sa Storycon. Of course, ang ating dati ng political papa, si Tito Ronald Llamas.
Kuya Ronald.
At
Kuya.
si Ate Ami ng Philippine Star.
Tita Ami at saka Tita Reg. Dalawa yung tita natin.
Happy Monday. Happy
Yari
Monday.
tayo.
Happy Monday, Amy.
Happy Monday. Ang ganda ng soundbite kanina, yung kay Don. Pero may mas magandang soundbite dun hindi na nagamit eh. Yung nagtanong si Brian Glenn, yung conservative reporter who's very pro-Trump, yung boyfriend ni Marjorie Taylor Greene, was asking Zelensky, why are you not in a suit? Do you own one?
That one. But he's always appeared in military fatigues from the very start.
Yun yung brand niya.
Oh, kaya nga, yun yung brand. It's part of the message.
Hindi, si
It's part of
Elon
the
Musk
message.
pupunta sa White House, naka-t-shirt.
Nakakatawa yung sagot ni Trump.
Ba't di nila sabihan yun?
Nakakatawa yung sagot ni Zelensky. I will wear a costume when the war is over. Bang, di ba? Bang.
Boom!
Boom pala yun.
Sabi niya kay Vice President Vance, napunta ka na ba ng Ukraine? Ang dami mo sinasabi sa kalagayan.
Actually, you know what? That started out okay. If you watch the whole, 15
That's
minutes,
what they say,
it started out okay. Tapos around the 40-minute mark lang siya, it turned into very
Hindi, pero
testy. Which is why they said, parang set up siya. Like the Americans had set him up for it. It was an ambush.
Parang yung mga American ang na-set up. Dahil sila
You think so?
Yeah. Dahil, pero mo, nandun sila lahat, tapos kinuyog nila yung si Zelensky. Si Zelensky ang panalo ron.
Yeah,
That's
the
one
end
perspective because
Yeah,
I've seen other people say na ang panalo doon is yung Trump administration.
Well, if the entire European leaders are supporting Zelensky.
So they're coalescing around him,
Si Zelensky is a zero-sum guy. Walang mawawala sa kanya dahil ina-invade yung bansa niya eh. Diba? Yun lang. Paano ka magkukan? Parang tayang-pato na sila.
Ami, what did you think? Did the Trump administration come out on top or Zelensky did?
Nagre-resign si Zelensky ng Amerika.
Ganun? Ganun lang yun?
Hindi, willing naman daw siya
Can Americans ask another leader to
But he was willing to. Sabi niya he was willing to, right?
Willing naman daw siya mag-resign eh.
Yeah, actually, hindi ba? Kaya yun ang actually gusto ng Russia na magpa-election siya. Diktador daw si Zelensky. Coming from Russia.
Hindi, nakakatawa lang yun.
Diktador daw.
Sabi nila, ay bakit parang dinadraft ngayon yung mga Ukrainians para lumaban? Eh pag may gera ka naman talaga, idadraft talaga yung mga tao mo. Alam mo, yun na nangyari sa Vietnam War. Kaya nagkaroon ng peace movement dahil galit na galit yung mga Amerikano nung panahon ng Vietnam War na dinadraft sila.
In the late 60s and
Nagtatalunan sa
early
kanyon,
70s.
sa Canada, para hindi sila masama sa draft. Ganun ang gera eh. Ba't binabanata nila na nagda-draft ng mga...
That's why some people are saying it's an ambush because they were hitting him from every possible
Kaya
thing,
nga,
right?
pag ganun kasi, mas mataas ka. You're the leader of the free world.
Yeah.
The most powerful nation in the world.
Dapat.
Nandun yung vice president mo, nandun yung iyong cabinet. Tapos kukuyugin nyo yung isang presidente ng isang bansa na maliit na nakikipaggera sa
may
kalaban
gera.
nyo. Iba yung dating nun, ha? Iba yung dating nun.
Pero Ronald, saka hindi rin maganda sa US yan. And it's showing na I think we should take note of what happened to Zelensky kasi kaya ganyan na attitude dyan ng mga Amerikano. Dependent sila sa US eh. So yan ang makikita natin. If you have dependence on this government, at least itong US government na to, ganyan ang tingin nila na pwede ka utus-utusan. Iimbitahin ka sa guest tapos
Tama,
ganyan
tama.
ang
The segue
tatrato. So
kami
I
yun.
think we should remember that.
At saka yung offer ng peace, sumuko kayo. It's a capitulation eh. It's not a ceasefire. It's a capitulation. Bigay nyo na yung...
It's a capitulation because
Bigay nyo na.
may nagtanong doon, what is Russia giving up in order to in the so-called ceasefire? And the answer was nothing because Ukraine was basically being asked to give
Kaya
up
nga.
its sovereignty,
Atin
its
yung bansa nyo.
NATO ambitions,
Yes.
its territory, lahat na. Pero what is Russia giving up?
Wala.
The answer is nothing.
Kaya nga,
So that's why it's a
Let's bring in
capitulation. Sabi nila. But anyways,
today, talaga. Dr. Chester
Ano yung
Cabasa.
guess nyo?
Si Ed kasi ang daldal eh.
Sorry, sir.
Hi, Chester.
Good afternoon, medyo mainit na eh.
mga sinasabi nyo.
Umiinit ang ulo ko eh.
Kayo naman. Ano yung sinasabi ninyo?
Umiinit ang ulo ko.
Well, of course, no. Trump is a master tactician. I think pinaghandaan niya ito. May nagsasabi na it was well rehearsed on the part of the Americans kasi nga ang kanilang proposition is to impose to Ukraine that that Zelensky will agree to them, no? Meaning to say that Zelensky will have to agree with the US that he will accept the offer of the US na mag-ceasefire. But of course, in a transactional diplomacy, very business-minded, no? Yung atmosphere. One is of course, remember prior to meeting Zelensky, President Trump met with Xi Jinping, and then later on with Macron, and then yung sa UK Prime Minister nila si Stanmer. So meaning to say, may series of thinking about the perceptions of these world leaders. Napansin ng US na mukhang nagkakaisa lahat yung mga European leaders. And I think one way for championing the advocacy of the Trump administration, especially on the America First, is to bandwagon with major powers, particularly with Russia and China. Kasi kapag na-win over niya itong mga big powers na ito, it's so easy for them to dictate on the middle powers. Kaya nung nakita natin yung dynamics on the heated discussion in the Oval, very well, of course, no. Tinanong nga ni Zelensky, can I ask a question? Kasi nga si J.D. Vance sinasabi niya, this is the kind of diplomacy that Trump wants to offer to Ukraine. Pero lumalabas very transactional yung diplomacy. And then all of a sudden, Zelensky questioned it, and then started with the historical antecedents of what really happened. Pero ayaw ng US pakinggan yun. Remember, when the UK Prime Minister started also barking about the issue of Canada, pinahinto siya bigla ni Trump. So, kapag ayaw nila yung sinasabi ng mga bisita nila, pinapahinto nila, no? So, meaning to say that it's already construed in their worldview that this is what the US wanted. Bandwagon with the major powers. Let's talk about they wanted to become a peace broker so that they could gain more influence and they could leverage with big powers para wala ng digmaan, and the US as a police power will no longer spend much money. Kasi nga, remember in the past, the US has invested a lot in Europe. Actually, ang kalaban nila ngayon is Europe more than other countries. Western Europe mainly because they have invested a lot of money for Europe to become the security guard for the gated community of Europe. So napagod na yung US kakabayad sa security ng Europe at their expense. And all of a sudden we saw this war. That's the reason why I think they want to return that FOI, yung ROI nila, yung return of investments. So kami naman, America first naman. That's the reason why they try to attack Zelensky during that conversation.
Pero they failed dismally because yung kinausap nila, UK at saka France, even Germany, stood behind Zelensky. No?
Agree.
At, yun yung,
Totally agree.
Tsaka very clear naman zero-sum guy na si Zelensky. Siya yung ini-invade Ang offer is to divide his country. Anong gagawin niya? No? Hindi siya papayag.
But there's also the question, okay, so the Europe is coalescing around Ukraine now, but there's also a question of whether they are going to stand by their commitment, right? Because for a long time,
nagtaas na
the
sila
US...
Yung hiningi ng US na taasan yung kanilang defense spending to 2%. Most European countries naabot na yon at lumampas pa. May ilan na hindi pa. Pero ibig sabihin, nag-scale up din sila.
Yes.
Whether that is enough to confront Russia
is the big question. So can they go at this without the US is still a question mark at this point.
Pero wala nga silang choice. They have to do it.
But Chester, we're talking about this because there's implications for us as a treaty ally of the United States. Talk us through what you said about Manila augmenting its own contingency plan and self-reliance.
Last year ko pa sinasabi ito that we have to think of our independent foreign policy and self-reliance. Of course, no? Biden was a very good friend to the Philippines. He offered EDCA sites and many support to the Philippines. But if you try to notice during that conversation in the Oval, mukhang binabawi lahat ng US yung mga binigay niya sa Ukraine. And we don't want that to happen in the Philippines, that one day we wake up, tapos sisingilin tayo ng US sa lahat ng mga binigay nila sa atin. That's the reason why we wanted to augment for self-reliance. And at the same time, yun nga yung yung formula natin dito military modernization, territorial defense equals self-reliance. No? Kaya nga meron tayong batas lately na self-reliance defense posture because ultimately, one way of improving our defense posture is through defense partnerships. Maganda na itong nangyayari nito because we are trying to diversify our partnerships, defense partnerships with other global powers. No? The mere fact that we are a favorite for many like-minded liberal democracies right now, especially na pinaglalaban natin yung rules-based order, they are coming to our shores to help us. No? Secondly, we don't want that even if we have this ironclad commitment with the US, if forever tayo nakadepend sa kanila. A good example would be the Mutual Defense Treaty. Since 1951 pa yan. And up to now, we haven't invoked the MDT. How much more if, say for example, we have a scenario where China will attack Taiwan and the Philippines, then how much more with this kind of transactional diplomacy that this American government has right now will offer to the Philippines? Most likely, hindi nila tayo susuportahan pagdating sa ganyan. That's the reason why it's nice now that we are diversifying our defense partnerships. It's nice that, yes, we have good relations with the US. They are offering ironclad commitment, but let us not rely so much on that. No? Kasi ang lesson ngayon is befriend Asian, European, and Pacific countries that have the same similar threat with us. Then we enhance that interoperability and defense partnership with them.
Maganda yun, Chester, yung kailangan talaga natin ng self-reliance. Several decades before pa. No? Kaya kung i-improve natin yung ating governance, baka may ma-channel tayo na huge resources away from corruption and mismanagement para
Ay,
mailagay...
nako, Ronald, the end na yan, the end.
Yeah, para mailagay sa ating self-reliant. Hindi, yun nga gusto ko sabihin, Ami. Yun nga gusto ko sabihin, Ami, na...
Tuloy nga lang, hindi natin magawa ng tama.
Oo nga, yun nga ibig ko sabihin. For now, ay may hirapan tayo dyan. Because it takes huge resources para magawa yan. Bawa, last Sunday, 2 Sundays ago, nandun ako sa aircraft carrier ng France. First time na pumunta rito. Ha? First time na pumunta rito.
Doon.
Yeah, pero hindi yan pupunta rito madalas. No?
Yeah.
They will give moral support, pero yung military support may hirapan. Although, nagbigay sila nung panahon namin, ako yung nag-negotiate ng mga Coast Guard vessels. But that's a drop in the bucket. Kaya kung ipe-prevent natin ng China, kailangan pa rin talaga yung support hindi lamang ng Europe, ng India, ng South Korea, ng Japan, ng Australia, etc., ng New Zealand, kung hindi ng US. No? In the immediate and the medium term, habang nagbibuild tayo ng self-reliance, na medyo matagal pa bago ma-achieve. No? Dahil mismo ang Australia is not a naval power. Kausap ko yung Australian ambassador. Sabi niya, may hirapan kami na tumulong sa inyo dahil wala naman kaming capacity no? As a naval power. Ganon din ang New Zealand. So it will take time para magawa yung self-reliance na yan. In the meantime, may 3-year limit si Xi Jinping to take over Taiwan. No? Kung hindi niya take over yan, babanatan siya ng PLA. No?
Yeah.
So, ang audience ng China is their own population. They have to show that they are very strong, aggressive, and can unite China in the immediate, not in the long term. No?
I want to point out though, hindi pa guaranteed yung 3-year timeline na yan because you have to remember China's economy is not doing so well and nobody starts wars when their economy is down.
Actually, they do. As a
If
to
it's
divert attention.
politically...
Chester, anong basa
To
mo?
divert
Because
attention.
Trump also wants to meet with Xi Jinping. Saan tayo lalagay niya kapag ganyan? Is he strengthening U.S. alliances with Russia? Ngayon, imbis na yung mga kaalyado niya dito sa Asia, kinakausap niya, uunahin niya si Xi. Ano yung implication nun for us? Security-wise, trade-wise, titigil na nga ng China pag-import ng bananas na naman natin So ano yung implication for us?
Right now, si US ang nagpe-perform ng balancing act. Kasi nga, although it's still the biggest economy in the world, but he still wanted to strengthen, lalong-lalo na ang daming mga walang trabaho din sa US na mga Amerikano. Of course, the reason why he is leveraging on trade and investment, kasi nga gusto niya pumasok sa maging preferred destination ang US more than China and Russia for that matter. So, looking at it, more on economic security yung habol niya. No? But still, we are in the reality of the game na in terms of the Indo-Pacific, kasi si Europe mainitang ulo niya doon Sa Indo-Pacific, most likely, more on the, kaya nga, yung mga defense officials niya is very strong pa rin sila sa pronouncement nila of engaging on an ironclad commitment with the Philippines. So, nandun pa rin siya, no? So, most likely, reliable pa si US in this part of the region, no? But, ang worrisome dito is kapag medyo, I do agree, yung sinasabi na yung hindi na satisfy ni Xi, yung demands ng Chinese people, magkaroon ng revolution sa kanilang bansa because of, nagkakaroon ng revolution kasi sa China kapag bumabagsak yung economy nila. We saw that in Tiananmen Square and so on. No? So, halimbawa, kung magsak yung ekonomiya nila in 3 years time, then I think that's a problem there, no? So, but of course, more likely, kasi ang nakikita natin dito na isa pa nilang digmaan is the fifth domain, yung advancement of technology. Because right now, yung BYD and of course Tesla, and then of course yung DeepSeek and of course yung AI, talagang labanan sila sa technology in this part of the world, no, especially in our region. So most likely yung cybersecurity fifth domain, doon sila maglalaban talaga, and we will see a lot of technological advancements that our region will really see in 5 to 10 years from now, no. Talagang pagalingan talaga ng teknolohiya yan.
2 points lang, Chester.
I think it's interesting. Kanina, you said something like, at this point, the U.S. wants to get in the same bandwagon as China and Russia, the big powers, so to speak, rather than with its old allies, for example, in Europe and possibly in Asia. Ano yun, they're changing their ideas of who the allies are?
I think hindi naman ganon. I doubt kung ganon yung kanilang magiging foreign policy at this point. Mukhang nag-kuwan pa lang sila, work in progress. Dahil halimbawa, within the Trump government, meron kang mga hawks against China. Si Rubio, si Vance, etc. Pero at the same time, si Elon Musk is the more pro-China. His biggest factory ng Tesla is now in Shanghai. And they're shifting from Japanese engines to Chinese engines. At yung mother niya is practically living in China, being wined and dined. So ganun yung power dynamics naman ngayon dyan. No? At si Trump yung fulcrum. Siya yung crucial. At as a transactional leader, disruptive, unpredictable, hindi mo alam kung saan siya pupunta at particular moments. Pero, as far as the Philippines is concerned, walang pagbabago. Tayo nga yung one of the few countries na in-exempt dun sa military aid ban dun sa kanilang development aid ban. So, medyo for now, we're not in the bad place. No? Pero, tama yung sabi ni Chester, in the future, medyo unpredictable yan. No? Pero for now, that may be resolved dito sa power struggle within the Trump government. Dahil, halimbawa, yung sila Bannon, yung Tea Party are very anti-Elon Musk ngayon. No? So may balatan dyan. Yung base ni Trump at saka si Elon Musk na very influential kay Trump ay meron ngayong matinding labakbakan.
Ang pivotal dito is when something happens in Taiwan. No, kasi right now we are in the age of techno-feudalism, no? Mas powerful ngayon yung mga tech guys. They can even dictate the minds of the presidents, no? Ang worry ko dito, kapag ginalaw ni China si Taiwan, then magkakaroon ng tectonic plate in terms of yung geopolitical shift, no? Right now, we are enjoying the honeymoon stage with Trump, with all the exemptions and the support that they are giving to us. I'm worried by next year or 3 years' time, no? Kasi doon mas i-intensify din ni China. Now, remember, next year we will become the chair of ASEAN. And by that time, we will lobby again for maritime security. Mabibwisit si China sa atin kasi we will try to influence ASEAN neighbors to talk about maritime security. By the time, kung maganda ang relasyon ng China at ng US, most likely baka mag-side din si Trump kay Xi Jinping, and most likely kung halimbawa mag-lobby tayo sa US, baka rin na magkaroon ng heated discussion or something like that, just like what happened in the Oval, no? Kaya,
pero di ba, Chester, mahalaga rin verb
ang ating Pangulo on how to handle this because it's the art of politics, no? Dapat magaling yung diplomatic skills niya pagdating sa
Pero Chester, 2 factors eh. Una, pag in-invade niya ang Taiwan, mafa-force yung hand ng Japan tsaka Korea. No? Pwede i-abandon ni Trump ang Taiwan, pero he cannot abandon Japan and South Korea. No? Medyo iba yan, no? Ikalawa,
and by the way, over the weekend, Japan and South Korea already said that they have to work together and increase their defense ties.
Ikalawa, yung popular pressure. Dahil historic yung law ngayon ni Trump in 1 month. Medyo dramatic yung pagbaba niya. So, yung kanyang mga communications, PR experts has to do something. And imagine mo kung magkokowales si Trump with Xi Jinping, that will be a tectonic shift not only around the world but also within popular support na bumababa sa kanya dito sa US.
I agree to that. No, that's the reason why. Kaya nga ang challenge ngayon is for Japan and Australia to do more. Kasi nga alam natin magiging carefree ngayon ang US in our region kasi nga yan na natin muna yan si China, mag-focus muna tayo sa Russia and Ukraine because of course no, one at a time din yung attack niya, no? He cannot diversify it all kasi ang model niya dito, if he succeeds as a peace broker for Russia and Ukraine, then that's gonna be the model that he will use for the rest of the world. So, ganun yung parang nakikita nating peace model niya.
In short, Chester, the U.S. is not a very reliable ally right now because coming back to Ronald's point, may power struggle, right? So between, in the previous week, see Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, have talked about, how the commitment to the Philippines is ironclad, et cetera. But then on the other hand, he seems to be listening more to J.D. Vance and to Elon Musk, right?
For
so
me,
parang
from a international relations perspective, actually the US right now is exercising pragmatism and hard power. No, yung tinatawag natin yung realist perspective. No, they are using that card right now, but they have to because Trump knows that he has to play the Shakespearean play of taming the shrew. Otherwise, if he cannot tame Russia and China right now, then these two big powers will overtake the US in the future. Kaya nga, highly needed siya ngayon ng US. We know that fact. But of course, maraming masasaktan, especially as middle powers. Because while the big elephants are playing around and stepping in with the ants, they are enjoying the moment right now. It's a celebratory moment for them. But they don't know that in the future, these ants will bite their feet. No, so something like that. No, in that kind of allegory. Definitely, pag kinagat na sila ng mga maliliit na mga ants na yan, magugulo rin sila. And that's the worrisome here. That is what we don't want to happen in the future. That these big powers will ally with each other and then they will fight. And all of us will be affected in the future.
Indeed. As they said, no one wants war at this point. We're going to have to leave that there for now.
Okay. Security Analyst Dr. Chester Cabalda. Sir, maraming salamat for joining us this afternoon.
Salamat, Chester.
Maraming salamat
Thank you.
po. Thank you.
Thank you.
You are watching Storycon on One News. We just need to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
We've got developing news and the stories behind the headlines. Welcome back to Storycon, the Story Conference. I'm Ed Lingao.
I'm Regina Lay, still with us. Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star and Ronald Llamas, our political pundit. All right, let's get updates now from the FOCAP, or Foreign Correspondents Association of the Philippines Forum. We have News 5 correspondent Camille Samonte on the line. Camille, ano nangyari kanina? I heard you were able to speak to Philippine Ambassador to the United States, Babe Romualdez.
Yes, Regina, kumpiyansa nga si Philippine Ambassador to the U.S. Jose Manuel Romualdez na mananatili ang kabuang foreign military financing ng Amerika sa Pilipinas. Sa kabila yan ng ipinatupad na freeze order ng Amerika sa mga foreign financial aid na ibinibigay nila sa iba't ibang bansa. Sa kabuuan, nasa $500 million ang inilaan na foreign military financing ng Amerika sa Pilipinas para sa modernisasyon ng Armed Forces of the Philippines at Philippine Coast Guard. Sa isang forum, iginiit ni Ambassador Romualdez na nakatanggap na ng waiver ang Pilipinas na hindi nga kasama o exempted sa freeze order ang $336 million na bahagi ng military financing. Yung natitira naman daw na halaga ay kasalukuyang dumadaan sa review. Pero apektado naman ng aid sa mga sektor ng kalusugan at edukasyon yung kasama sa freeze order. Pero sa kabila niyan, maaari pa rin daw na madagdagan ang military financing ng Amerika dahil naghayag ang ilang US senators na maglaan ng karagdagang $2.5 billion. Sa ngayon, handa raw na makipagpulong si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos kay President Trump oras na maimbitahan siya sa White House.
Camille, di ba may iba pang mga topics dyan? Halimbawa, yung BARM, nandyan din sa FOCAP, at saka si Chief PNP Marbil. Inamin na ba niya yung incident sa busway? Yun daw itatanong kay Marbil dyan sa FOCAP kanina.
Oh, unfortunately, si Chief Marbil couldn't make it to the forum, but there were two PNP officials that he sent as a representative. Under case naman, na pag natanong din yan, of course, yung alleged PNP memo at ang sinabi nga ni Police Major Roderick Agustus Alba ng Director Police Community Relations at ni Police Colonel Randall Tuanyo naman ng chief ng kanilang PIO, ay patuloy pa nilang bine-verify yung itong ang memo na kumalat sa social media kasunod nga ng insidente ng pagdaan ng PNP convoy sa EDSA busway. Ang sabi ni Alba, pananagutin nila yung sino mang mapatunayan na naglalabas o leak ng anumang internal memo ng PNP. Pero sa kabila niyan, hindi niya bine-verify or dine-deny yung about nga sa memo kung meron ba talaga silang inilabas. Inamin naman na raw ng PNP yung kanilang pagkakamali, kaya patuloy daw nilang susundin ng batas trapiko. So they just made sure na this will not happen again, but they also expressed yung kanilang desire na it would help if i-allow din daw ang PNP na gamitin nga yung EDSA busway in terms of in cases of emergency.
Talaga naman kasama sila, Camille. Merong ganong, talaga naman pwede yung police kung may emergency. Sinabi nga lang ng police mismo, wala naman daw emergency na ganong klase. But anyway, ang itatanong ko lang yung sa pagkaupo ni President Trump, sinabi na dito ng Malacanang na makikipag-usap nga daw si President Marcos. Are we actively arranging a meeting between them? Kasi mukhang walang imbitasyon hanggang ngayon eh. Is our president trying to invite himself o merong ganong active engagement between the two countries? Natanong ba yon? Kasi pangalawang beses ko na narinig yan na gustong makausap. Hindi mo naman pwedeng sabing gusto ko makausap tong presidente to tapos pupunta ka na lang doon, di ba? Merong ongoing negotiation ba?
Yes, sabi ni Ambassador Romualdez, nag-express na raw sila sa White House yung kanilang intention nga for a one-on-one meeting between President Marcos and President Trump. Ang sinasabi ni Ambassador Romualdez, at this point, President Marcos is busy campaigning because of the election. So most likely, ang nakikita nila is during springtime. So that's probably March to June. So yun yung tinitignan nila na potential schedule for the two leaders to meet. And then yung mga key points na pag-uusapan ay kasama pa raw yun sa pinaplansya.
What did Ambassador Romualdez say about the White House meeting between President Trump and Volodymyr Zelenskyy? Camille?
Yes, and Regina, on that recent incident naman, Ambassador Romualdez was saying na he believes hindi magiging ganun yung treatment ni U.S. President Trump with the Philippines or President Bongbong Marcos. Kahit nga, kasi nakita na dun sa incident na yun, nagkasagutan sila ni President Zelenskyy. Pero sinasabi ni Ambassador Romualdez, knowing Trump, it's just really his intention to build a peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine. Pero mahalaga na tignan muna yung parehong side ng Ukraine at ng Amerika at kung ano yung intention nila dito. So, sinasabi rin ni Ambassador Romualdez na the Philippines share the same view na gusto rin nila na maayos na ito, matigil na yung gera dahil naapektuhan din yung buong mundo. But as to, kasi it was also questioned earlier na is there a possibility that, Trump would change his behavior to the Philippines after his behavior with President Zelenskyy? But Ambassador Romualdez is saying that he doesn't think that it will happen because there's no issue between the U.S. and America as compared to the Ukraine, that there is a conflict at the moment.
Not to mention that the amount of funding is simply worlds apart. I know we've been talking about 500 million for the Philippines na tutuloy, pero that's a small drop in the bucket of foreign aid that the U.S. gives to other countries. We're not even in the top 15 in terms of U.S. funding
Pero
for
Ed,
allies.
consistent yan si Trump. Pati Taiwan nga sinabihan niya. Sabi niya, magdagdag naman kayo ng sarili niyong ng
Defense
contribution niyo for
Defense
your own
spending.
self-defense.
Tama.
Baka mamaya pagpunta natin dyan we're going there as di ba? Humihingi tayo ng tulong
with
Baka
hand in
sabihin
hand again.
pwede ba makipag-usap pala kayo Keshi sa China at mag-invest kayo more on your self-defense. Paano kung ganun din sabihin? Napaka-unpredictable, di ba?
Anything can happen at this point.
Ginaganyan niya, hindi ba?
Yes,
Kaya
I agree.
yun nakakaano.
Pero actually, ang Taiwan kayang magdagdag
Yes,
ng panggastos.
they already are. Nagdagdag na sila,
Kaya nila
actually.
magdagdag. May pera
Nagdagdag
sila. May pera
na sila. It's just that their
Tayo walang
military is
pera.
fully trained.
Lalo na yun. Kuya may pera, ginaganyan tayo pa.
Si Ronald is correct. I just came from Taiwan on a reporting tour, right? And nag-increase na sila ng defense spending. The problem is, as Ami said, pag tayo yung hininga ng ganon. Because we cut the defense spending for 2025.
Pero ang edge kasi natin, hindi lang yung ating strategic location. Sa ASEAN, tayo lamang yung talagang tumatayo sa China. Sa ASEAN, ha?
Vietnam is starting to make its voice heard.
Hindi, ang Vietnam, transactional yan eh. Dahil maraming mga Chinese products pumapasok sa Vietnam, para makapasok sa US, tatatakan ng made in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Kaya, kunyan, depende ano yung season. No? Seasonal yan eh. No?
Baka nga,
Minsan
Ronald,
kakampi
baka
natin,
sabihin nga ni
minsan
Trump,
hindi.
Kuya ASEAN nga, hindi kayo masuportahan kami pa.
Although they succeeded in pushing back China in 1979.
Yes.
Oo,
Hindi,
that was remarkable.
Sila lang nakipaggera sa China 3 beses.
Oo.
And
Yes,
at
they
yung kasaysayan
drove-
nila, they've been at war with China for 1,000 years. Di ba? Oo. Tayo, kakampi natin si Lima Hong.
Okay, I will let Camille Samonte go for now. I think she's still on the line. Thank you so much for your report, News 5
Thank you,
correspondent Camille Samonte.
Thank you.
Thank you, Camille.
But
Thank you, Camille. Pero si Lima Hong, 500 Pilipina yung asawa nun.
Oo,
marami.
Nandun sa Pangasinan.
Marami.
Sa Pangasinan,
di ba?
marami sa Pangasinan.
Di ba? May kamandaan.
Hindi ko kilala to.
Nagtayo sila doon ng mga
na naman namin
community
si
eh.
Ron.
Tumakas siya from Manila.
Totoo yan.
Chinese siya to
Nasa
Pangasinan eh.
Philippine Star yan.
It must be true.
Ami, please fact check.
Hindi ko alam yung 500 pero pumunta siya sa Pangasinan. Tumakas siya from Manila, he was driven away. At doon siya sa Pangasinan nag-set up. Talaga noon pa, talagang nakaharap yun sa West Philippine Sea yun eh. Pag nagpunta ka ngayon sa Pangasinan, makikita mo yung construction doon ng mga Chinese. Ang lapit-lapit nandun sa may Bulinaw. You can see the island, you can see the construction materials.
Tsaka
Talagang interesado sila dyan.
Naanakan niya yung 500 na asawa niya, kaya ang dami na.
Ayun na naman tayo.
We don't know that.
Baka
nananino ka. Hindi ko alam yun.
Scratch. Take it off. Take it off
Wala
first.
nang fact-checking ngayon. Ano yung sinasabi mong fact-check, di ba? Wala nang
Wala
fact-checking. No?
Meron pa sa One News.
To the question,
May not
meron ba
be on
tayong
One
pondo?
News.
Tanggalin yung mga ayuda, tanggalin yung yung mga ginagastos para sa mga tuloy na bumabagsak.
Ilagay sa self-reliance ng ating military.
But you know,
di ba?
1.2 billion din yun,
But I want to come back to what Ami said, which is we know for sure na, Ami, you're right, matagal na sila humingi ng meeting with President Trump.
Yes.
Yeah.
Since the start.
Bago po ni President Trump,
Yes.
nag-announce na. Gusto daw niyang makausap eh.
So I don't know if you guys...
ganun lang,
I don't know if you guys think it's worrisome na hanggang ngayon.
Hindi, wala
pa
naman siyang kausap eh. Masyado eh. No? Yung inauguration niya, wala namang mga heads of state na nandun eh. Di ba? Usually marami yan eh. Tsaka, exempted tayo sa
Inimita
ban.
niya yung sexy, yung taga-Italy.
Si Meloni.
Si Meloni.
Girlfriend daw ni Elon Musk. Pero kung tayo isa tayo one of the few na in-exempt dun sa freeze sa military aid, no? Sa development
Kaya
aid.
lang yung USAID natin, napakalaki nun and it affects a lot of sectors.
It does.
Yung USAID for other sectors, napakalaki.
Woke daw kasi yun eh. Puro LGBTI daw yung mga project.
No, that's not true. The biggest chunk goes to education. Education, disaster response, BARM elections, lahat. It's not LGBT.
He's being sarcastic.
Pero yun nga, that is a big hit that nagsirado yung USAID because I checked the numbers. 2023, they spent $198 million on the Philippines.
Trump ng environmental issues.
The climate change issues.
Ayaw niya ng mga
LGBT,
affirmative action.
DEI.
No?
Yeah.
Ayaw niya ng mga women's act. No? Ayaw niya ng gano'n.
Yung
no?
health. Dalawa kami women dito. Women's month na yan.
Sinasabi ko para kay Trump, hindi para sa akin. Ako affirmative action ako eh.
You're pro-affirmative action. Okay. Can we put that on the record?
Pipirmahan ko pa.
Despite him being Ronald, he's liberal.
Pipirmahan ko pa.
Masyadong liberal.
Pipirmahan ko pa. Kaya nga tinawag ni Trump si Pope Francis na Antichrist eh. Dahil masyado daw siyang
don't bring Pope Francis in the conversation. He's fighting for his life.
Kaya nga. Ako, pro-Francis ako.
But just to give you a sampler of how much other countries have been getting from the US versus us na 500 million. Ukraine Ukraine,
Pakistan,
this is
unahin mo.
2023, 17 billion sa Ukraine. Israel is 3.3 billion. Tuloy mo Israel.
Hindi, wag na yung mga
Jordan is
Nigeria, Pakistan na lang.
1.6. Egypt is 1.5 billion.
Tama, mahalaga
Ethiopia
yung
is
Pakistan.
1.4. Pakistan, wala sa listahan ng US.
Malaki ang Pakistan. Tapos kakampi ng China ngayon
But
yan.
how much kaya?
Counter-terrorism
Kasi
yun eh.
hanggang Yemen, 733 million. That's number 15. Pero wala yung Pakistan.
Malaki ang Pakistan.
Pakistan is...
At tapos, yung pa naman na nagkadel kay Bin Laden.
Oo nga.
Yeah.
Tapos, ngayon, kakampi ng China.
Counter-terrorism yun.
Don't say cuddle. No?
Six
na go.
Nagtago, itinago talaga nila katabi ng army
Nagtago.
camp eh.
Diba?
What's the largest, Ed?
Ukraine.
Sa Amerika.
2023, Ukraine was 17 billion. Israel, Jordan, Egypt, Ethiopia, Somalia. Even Somalia still getting 1.1 billion.
Israel, malaki. Baka
3.3.
Well,
Israel.
yeah.
Israel kasi because of Gaza.
No,
Because
Israel's
of
always been like that, even before the
sila
Gaza
ngayon.
war.
Actually, mas
Sa bagay,
malakas.
talagang malaki talaga yan.
Mas malaki
Kahit
yung
hindi
tulong
walang
sa
war,
Israel
talagang
in the
malaki.
past.
Pati Afghanistan, as late as 2023, 886 million. Kenya, 846. Mozambique, 776. Colombia, 738. Tapos tayo, 500 million.
Well, that's just the first tranche, sabi ni Ambassador Romualdez.
Baka daw kasi mawala.
No. Meron pang 2.5 billion that they're working
Baka daw
on.
kasi mawala yung 500.
Billion
Million.
that they're trying to work on that hindi pa approved, but
Kung
they're
ikaw ang
trying to
US,
get it approved.
Tapos ganito yung level of corruption. Ibigyan mo ba ng malaki?
Tapos nakita mo yung tuloy bumagsak.
Tapos nakita mo yung tulay, bumagsak, di ba? Iconic.
Nakita mo
It's
yung
just so big.
intention lang sa
Okay.
tulay, ha? Parang
Yeah.
naka-bolt on
Yeah.
lang siya.
Brand new tuloy yung
That was,
brand new.
Then, nung panahon namin, galit na galit si Pinoy. Binigyan kami ng lumang barko ng US. Tapos may 50 caliber. Nung pinaputok namin, nag-jam. 50 caliber na nga, nag-jam pa. Galit na galit si Pinoy. Hindi niya kinausap yung US ambassador for 8 months.
Baka naman
Oo nga.
madumi.
That was problematic.
Hindi, binakas
Okay.
ko pa eh.
We are being told to wrap up.
Oh,
Sorry.
nga pala, sorry.
Thank you for
Overtime na kayo.
joining. Thank you for joining
Ed
Storycon
kasi
today.
sinasabi ni Ed eh.
Ami Pamintuan, editor-in-chief of the Philippine Star, Ronald Llamas, our resident political pundit. Join us again tomorrow at 4 p.m. for Storycon. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Ed Ligaw. We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Bukas, tawagin sa akin.
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.